right?
Mhm.
If you don't have
Mhm.
a goal, most times you will just freelance your way through different things without really hitting a particular target. And that's why it's important to always
Right.
have your goals clear. And then it's not just having a goal, but what I call the SMART goal, right? There's this SMART
Mhm.
framework that people use in setting goals. If your goal is not SMART, there's a tendency you're missing a huge element of that goal or a part of that goal. And uh, then you might struggle to actually get it done. So goal setting, it's a very essential skill, and I had to start balancing the things I was doing and my work. And for anyone who works full time, you know that's not a very easy thing to do, right? Where at the end of work, and it's normal, right? You've spent the whole day doing what you do best, but there's just that extra thing you need to do, and you come back tired. The question is, where do I start? So I started thinking of ways, how can I get my job done and do it very well? Because I'm an advocate of if you're paid to do something, you have to do it well, right? That's why you're paid for it. So how can I get that done, but still have time to do some other stuff that I was truly interested in? Yeah, the emotional well-being, it's very essential to being able to be productive because if you're not
Mhm.
in the right space, emotionally, psychologically, your motivation levels will be low. It will be low.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if your
Mhm.
motivation is low, you struggle with energy, not because you're physically incapable, but you know how the mind works. It just has a way of crippling the entire body, even if the body is functional, but because the mind is a bit off pace or it's not in the right space. So for
Mhm.
certain clients, and it's a very personalized coaching program as well. I try to make it as personalized
Mhm.
as possible. So it's
All right. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Define Your Purpose. Purpose is the birthplace of ideas. And I'm really pleased to welcome today amazing productivity coach out of the London area. And he's also a podcast host. And through his career, he's made great strides at the science of productivity. I want everyone to please welcome Mr. Wilson Obeneme. Wilson, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Karl, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and super excited about this.
So I know you've had quite a journey before you arrived at coaching. Maybe you could start by explaining a little bit of what landed you in the arena.
I know, right? And I think most coaches is out of our own experiences. We get to coach others, right? Just building on some of the things we've
Hmm.
experienced. Yeah, so for me, I've had a very interesting career path, I think, like most. So started off as, or studied mechanical engineering, my first and second degree, something I'm quite passionate about, or I really loved as well.
Oh.
But over time, I found myself leaning more towards the IT space, and then did that, and that's the major space I still play in. Yeah, in that space. But I think my whole productivity awareness, I'll put it that way, the awareness of if you're productive, you can get more done. Like I would say it started just after the COVID period, right? I know I've always been someone who's strived to get things done, but where there's this awakening where you're like, maybe I can do this better than I used to, right? And
Mhm.
that COVID period was for different people. We had so many experiences, different experiences. I was still
Yeah.
engrossed in work, but I also knew I wanted to do some extra stuff, things I was quite passionate about, and I had to start balancing the things I was doing and my work And for anyone who works full time, you know that's not a very easy thing to do, right? Where at the end of work, and it's normal, right? You've spent the whole day doing what you do best, but you know there's just that extra thing you need to do, and you come back tired. The question is, where do I start? So I started thinking of ways, how can I get my job done and do it very well? Because I'm an advocate of if you're paid to do something, you have to do it well, right? That's why you're paid for it. So how can I get that done, but still have time to do some other stuff that I was truly interested in, those things that I'm quite passionate about, which is
Mm.
speaking to people, helping my friends solve some things, connecting with family, and all of that very interesting stuff. So for me, I just started looking for that balance, right? And that
Okay.
just go into further research into, okay, this is what I would do. So I think that for me, that was where it all started from and started piecing puzzles together
So you
before
kind
I
of felt
finally.
like you had more to give outside your career that you had to kind of find another outlet for almost.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Mm.
So the interesting thing about working is you do a lot, and for me, I enjoy every single thing I've done. I enjoy it, or I've enjoyed it. But sometimes there's always that feeling inside that maybe there is more. Maybe
Mhm.
you can reach
Right.
more people. And
Mm.
for me, I think that was where it also started pulling together that search for doing what I do very well, but how can I impact more people? Yeah, I'll say that that
Mm.
was a part that was a bit missing for me, right? I
Mm.
wanted to do something on a bigger scale as well to touch more lives, and yeah, for me that was the outlet, right? Going
Right.
into coaching and all of that.
Right. Right. Awesome. So how did you start working with people then?
My
For coaching. I mean.
Yeah, so my first experience working with people started, I'll say quite early, right? Unofficially. So I grew up in a Christian home, and if you know anything, like if you grew up in that setting, from a very young age, you actually start working with people and that whole mindset to help people, right? For me, that was like the beginning, because it's part of what
Yeah.
we do. So I
Mm.
noticed that I actually got excited when probably I say something to someone and the person feels more encouraged, right?
Mm.
It was little, but it was something. So my friend is feeling down, and we just have a discussion. I'm like, okay, this is what I think. I feel like you should just be excited about this. We'll learn from it and all of that. So that was the awakening for me as well. Like I really enjoyed
Mm.
doing that and just seeing the smile on people's faces from being very sad to being happy. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Right. Oh, that's great. So, how did you start turning that into income then? I mean,
Mm.
a lot of people like helping other people, but they're like, how do I make any money at this?
Yeah, I know, right? I think it always starts with you convincing yourself you have enough to give people for them to pay for that service.
Mm.
And for a long
Mm.
time, I actually
Mm.
struggled with that because I enjoyed doing it. But the question was that enough to convince someone to actually reward me in that manner? Right? There were other forms of reward I typically would get a pat on the back, or someone says that to someone that, oh, you should talk to this guy. He does this, he does that. But um, I really had to grow out of that mindset into this is valuable. You're helping people do things, and you should actually feel okay being rewarded for doing that.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that led to another challenge. Okay, how do I then put this into a service that makes sense?
Mm.
So I had to
Right.
work with a consultant. Yeah, so I had to work with a consultant, and he was very helpful. So we went
Mm.
through this almost 12 weeks program as well. I just told him, like, I have this idea. I've been doing this on a lighter note, but I feel it's time to do this a bit bigger and better. And he said, okay, I'm going to help you. I help coaches, consultants unpack what they have in their head and make it a structured program, and then they can make offers and earn from it. So that was where it started. And shout out to my consultant. His name is Gabe, a lovely guy. So he truly helped
Nice.
me. it was more of consultancy, but he also helped me unpack. He was a mini coach. I know he doesn't like the word coach because he's like, I'm a consultant, but just talking to him on weekly basis actually helped me a lot. Believe more in myself and come up with a structure. So that was the point. I started putting things together, and then I tried with a couple of people. Yeah, I said, "Hey, are you willing to pay for this?" And they're like, "Yeah, if it meets my need, I'm willing." I'm like, "Okay, let's go ahead." Yeah,
Right.
so that was the journey.
So you then worked with enough people to kind of come up with a plan. Do you have like a that you help people with productivity? I mean, you must have. That takes some planning, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does.
So how did you
It,
put that together and all that just from your own experiences probably to start with?
yeah. So after I worked with the consultant, obviously one thing is having and this is something with whatever business you do, you have to do your market research and get that validation that people want it in the way you're
Mm,
offering it. So
yeah.
after speaking with him for a while and then unpacking everything I had in my head, putting it together, I then reached out to, like I said, a couple of people to say, hey, I offer this paid coaching program. Are you willing? Obviously, some people were like, I'm willing, but maybe the price is too much at this time. And it's fine, right? It's one of those things, but you also need to know your target audience. And there's a class of people who will not appreciate what you're doing now, not because they don't want to, but they're not in that stage of life. But those who actually are in a space of life where they need that coaching service and product, they just go for it. And
Mm,
when I started talking with more people reaching out, working with my team, so I actually tried to put up a team together to support me on this to make it easier, right? I have a full-time job, so I don't have all the time. I had to put things in place to say, hey,
mm,
help with this, while I focus on what the core business is, what the core thing is, which is the coaching. And then reached out to a couple of people and they were willing and they came on board. I'll say that was where I got my first breakthrough. And yes, I was super excited about it.
awesome. And
Yeah.
so what were some of the key techniques that you use to help somebody who really has problems with productivity then?
Yeah. Um, I always say it starts with the mind. We
Mm,
start with it always starts with the mind.
mm.
And for me, I first of all take them through what I call the clarity navigation phase.
Oh, neat.
People are unproductive, yeah, but most times it's because they don't even know, they just know they are not meeting up. But if you ask them, what are you supposed to be doing? You'll be shocked that a lot of people are not even
Mm,
clear on what they're supposed to be doing with their time,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it's always a starting point. I
Mhm,
start with that clarity, like how do we understand what first of all, what do you need to do? And then what are the mindset, what kind of mindset do you have towards doing it? Some people, because of their background, their performance at work or with family, they already have, I would say, a defeated mindset and it's
mm,
affecting their productivity. So it's not because they're
mm,
not capable. Most people are actually capable, but they start off with or they focus so much on the things that didn't work that it affects their whole
mm,
mood, their confidence, their motivation, and they can't even get anything started. So I spend a lot of
mm,
time trying to get them to move past that fixed mindset, like Carol Dweck would say it, which is a doctor who wrote the book on mindset, the philosophy of success, right? She compared the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. And that is one aspect I help them like unbox. Why you thinking the way you're thinking? Why you feeling this way? And most times when they get out of it, they are now energized. They're in the right mental space to tackle other issues that contribute to their lack of productivity. But it always starts with
mm.
self-awareness, right? And then like unpacking that mindset and having a growth mindset.
Yeah, yeah, great. And maybe I think too, understanding your priorities,
Yeah.
it can be kind of overwhelming for some people because they take so many things on.
Yeah.
Um, So I guess that kind of determines how productive you are too, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. In fact, someone said something. What your productivity, one thing your productivity coach would most likely not tell you is do more things. um, that is barely one thing you hear a productivity coach tell you, like you need to do more.
Mhm.
Most times is you need to prioritize better and
Mhm.
focus on some things. And that is the core of productivity. And I will say, for me, I tell people that productivity is best if you look at it in two ways. One, you have effectiveness, and then the second is efficiency. So effective people
Mhm.
know what they should be working on, and they work on those important things. Those are if you're very effective, you're working on the right things you should be working on. But if you are efficient, you find smarter ways to work on those things, right? So
Yeah.
effectiveness on the right things, efficiency in a smarter way, less resources, but greater outcome. So if you
Mhm.
bring these two things together, you are then productive. But what happens with most people is either they are not clear on what they should be working on, and it's sad when you see very efficient people unproductive because they are the people you say they are always busy, but they are not meeting their goals. They have a way of doing things. They can get things done, but they don't just get the right things done. And
Mhm.
then you have some people who they know what they should work on, but they don't have, I'll say, the requisite skill, knowledge, or techniques or tools to work on those things faster, quickly, and effectively, efficiently to get it done. So if you want to be productive, those are the two. Just think of it this way: how can I work on the right things, and how can I work on it better and faster without using up all my energy and time?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So what do you find is the impact of goals, or what do you think about goals, and what have you observed with that? People talk all the time about it, but um, do you find it's important?
Oh, yeah. Very, very important. It sets the trajectory, or it gives you a sense of direction. It's like your North Star, right? If you don't have
Mhm.
a goal, most times you will just freelance your way through different things without really hitting a particular target, and that's why it's important to always
Right.
have your goals clear. And then it's not just having a goal, but what I call the SMART goal, right? There's this SMART
Mhm.
framework that people use in setting goals. If your goal is not SMART, there's a tendency you're missing a huge element of that goal or a part of that goal, and uh, then you might struggle to actually get it done. So goal setting, it's a very essential skill. And even in our offices, in fact, I say this to people, most times you set goals for the year in your business, you set goals for your career. The only thing is you don't just set those goals in your personal life, right?
Mm.
Most people, they don't
Yeah.
set those goals in their personal life. They don't set those goals um, in other aspects of their life, right? So the same
Mhm.
idea you have towards work, if you can actually have that same mindset, that same energy, enthusiasm towards your personal life, you'll notice that the skills you have at work, you can actually use it back at home and get a lot more things done.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
same way you set annual goals,
Mm.
always try to set annual goals for your personal life, not just work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. That makes a lot of sense. Um, I think people will even put more planning into their vacation than they
Mm.
do into their regular life. They'll plan
Yeah,
everything about what they're doing on vacation and every minute of every day, but then they don't plan anything about their goals or what they want to do for the year and what they want
yeah,
to have happen. Um, I, I
yeah,
I read once that it's like 80% of uh, adults in America don't have goals at all. So if you don't know where you're going, then it's like where you're going to end up, right?
yeah, yeah. Your goal is like, yeah, it's just think of a road or a destination. Without that, where exactly are you going? You're just moving left, right,
Mhm.
wherever the wind takes you, you go that way. But ultimately there is no destination. Um, and the thing is, people don't consider, probably they don't, or they do, but they don't just know how to go about it, other aspects of their lives as critical as some. So, for example, you can set goals for your business because you see it as very important. But what of your health? Do you have health goals for the year?
Mhm.
You can set
Right.
for, yeah, for business, but what of your family? Do you have goals for your wife, your husband, for those married, their children, your parents, your siblings, your friends? Do you have goals in terms of reaching out to them, making sure that those
Mhm.
relationships are healthy? So people just think goals. When they hear goals, they always think job, money, but it should
Yeah.
be the same thing across board. If you're a person of
Yeah.
faith, you should have goals. If you volunteer, you should have goals. What do I want to achieve? Yeah, so it's very important across all aspects of life. And that's what in the coaching program, I also get them to see, right? I hear you, I
Mm.
know this is exactly what you want to do, but think of the bigger picture. Because if those aspects suffer, there's every tendency you will struggle to meet that particular one you're interested in. There's every tendency.
Right.
So yeah, make it count.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you and a lot of that is kind of from the intellectual mind and the thinking mind. Do you also help people with their feelings and maybe how they feel about doing the things that they know they need to, or their feelings of resistance that they may have?
Yeah,
Do you work
yeah.
those sorts of things with people too?
Yeah, I try to help them explore it. I won't say I'm an expert in that field when it comes to emotional, deep emotional aspects.
Mhm.
I won't say I'm an expert there, but at least from working with different people, I have an experience, like certain experiences I can obviously share and then help them reflect on. Um, yeah, the emotional well-being, it's very essential to being able to be productive, because if you're not
Mm,
in the right space emotionally, psychologically, your motivation levels will be low. It will be low.
mm, mhm,
And if your
mhm,
motivation is low, you struggle with energy, not because you're physically incapable. But you know how the mind works. It just has a way of crippling the entire body, even if the body is functional, but because the mind is a bit off pace or it's not in the right space. So for
mhm,
certain clients, and it's a very personalized coaching program as well. I try to make it as personalized
mm,
as possible. So it's not just a generic uh, outline that you must go through. It's okay, what exactly is your struggle? And then we try to look into the curriculum and say, okay, we'll focus on this aspect because this is your biggest challenge, while you take up the other part,
mm,
but most of the resources will be around this aspect. So when I have people who are struggling emotionally or psychologically, I try to deepen that aspect of the program, right? But there's cases
mm,
where I tell
mm,
them maybe you should actually go and see a specialist in that aspect,
mm,
right? They might help you
mm.
unpack even further, right? But
Yeah,
it's very essential. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, I think a lot of um, productivity might, for me, kind of revolves around making yourself do things that you at the time maybe don't necessarily feel like doing. Um, is is that something that you help people with? And I mean, is that even your approach, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's one of the pillars, right? And that
Mm,
is you. It's you probably depending on your willpower to do things, right?
mm.
I think that's the word
Okay.
we
Yeah.
generally use. Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing is, everywhere humans, we are not robots. And there are days you wake up, you know what to do, you know when to do it, you just don't feel like doing it.
Right. Right.
And it happens to everyone, right?
Mhm.
If there's
Mhm.
someone that doesn't happen to, the person should please tell me what they do that it never happens, right? I'll be
Right.
more than happy to learn, right? But the challenge is when that happens every single day, every single week, then there is a problem,
Mm.
right? For different
Yeah.
reasons, we feel that way. It might be an overwhelm. You've been working hard the past 2 weeks nonstop, but you will wake up one day and really don't feel like doing anything, and it's fine to rest. Productivity doesn't mean you have to work every single day. That's the misconception people have about
Yeah.
productivity. It's
Mm,
not
yeah.
you must work every day. Some days it's best you don't even work. You just
Mm,
rest. You just relax and unwind and do something different. And I get my people to do that sometimes, right? But the challenge is when you feel that same way every day, every week, 2 times, 3 times a week for an extended time, then it's an indication that something is wrong and you need to
mm,
work on that, right? So when I encounter people who they say, okay, I wake up and I don't feel like doing anything. I ask them, is this something you experience often or is it a one off? If you experience this, my own
mm,
statistics, right? I'm not saying it's official research, but if you experience this once every month, I don't think it's bad, to be honest. As long as you can
mm.
get yourself back up and running, like the next day on
Yeah.
the next 2 days, right?
Okay.
But where
Yeah.
there's a
Mhm.
challenge is when it's a bit more frequent. And when that happens, I also take them through a process to say, okay, these are the things you should do, right? We'll start working together to get that person in a state where at least every week you put in, and it's also progressive, right? If you meet someone who is in that state and you want to force the person to immediately jump to another high, it doesn't work. It's gradual, it's progressive, right? But we get back to the phase or the stage where at least 4 days a week you're very sharp, like you're fully in. And then if it happens once a week, okay, with time it gets better. So yeah, I also help people through that in the program.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
That's great. So,
yeah,
I guess that's kind of one end of the. You probably deal with quite a spectrum of people. I mean, I
yeah.
guess on one end, it's probably the people who have a problem with the productivity and the motivation, but on the other end, I guess there's probably people who are really high achievers and want to
Mm.
really stack their day and achieve as much as they can in the time that they have. So what are maybe some techniques that you use with people like that?
Good question. Um, Honestly, very few people in that state, very few actually do come for coaching, and it's normal,
Okay.
right? Because
Mm,
they are used to performing at a certain level, and total respect to them. In fact, when I meet people like that, I'm always super excited because for me, there's something I will learn from them, right?
right. Mhm.
Yeah, high achievers, like very high achievers, they barely see the need for coaching. It's not because they don't need it, and I'll give you an example. My personal experience, because of how I get things done for a long time, I felt like I didn't need coaching of any sort. Like different aspects
Mm,
of life, like you just read about it, you try to get yourself. But then I
yeah.
realized different aspects. And that's why even I reached out to my consultant. I would have tried to do it myself, but I said, it makes no sense, right? This person has gone through this phase. This person will probably understand what I'm feeling as well. So high achievers most times will not show up or they won't even want it. But those who do, I think they're thinking sustainability. That is the
Mm,
key thing, right? It's not
okay.
becoming, they're already high
Mm,
performers, right? But the question is, how sustainable is this the long run for the long run? Um,
mm,
and unfortunately, some very high performers, unfortunately, they they do different things to maintain that level, which long term might have an effect on them,
right.
right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's only those who are quite aware that, okay, maybe I'm 20, I'm early in my early 30s, this works, but as I age, it's going to be a problem. As I grow older, these things I
Mm,
do to make
yeah.
sure I'm always, yeah, like, it's going to cause challenges. So they are the ones that usually come to say, okay, what can I do? And for me, one of the methods is, first of all, appreciating them for their achievements and their willingness to learn. That's something they should be appreciated for. And then we go
Yeah.
through a process of, okay, what are you doing currently to hit this target? And I'll give an example. Someone I'm working with, for him, it was coffee every time he felt low, like instant coffee. He would just go take so much coffee and the caffeine kicks in. But he started noticing some body changes because of consuming too much coffee over time, right?
Mm,
And he knew that, okay, I'm performing, but this habit is not sustainable, right? There has to be a more natural way of doing something, that of doing this. And so when we started working, what we did was, what are all the places you're performing? What makes you take what you take to be performing at that level? And then we went through that whole journey on, maybe I'm anxious, maybe I'm tired. I just want instant dopamine high gratification to just get me up. I do this, I do that. And uh, then we started deconstructing one after the other. Okay, how about, instead of doing this, why don't you try this other method that is a bit more natural? And then let's see how that works with you, right? And then we take note, and
mhm,
gradually, and now he's at a point where he doesn't need coffee, for example, to be very productive. He doesn't need it. The
mm,
last time he was really proud of himself, and we celebrated it
yeah,
on one of our calls, our group calls, when I had with other people. And we actually celebrated him because it's a massive shift from his idea on, I need something to be productive, to, okay, I can be productive. It obviously took some time, but he found his way to water, proper rest, proper scheduling,
mm,
not overloading himself, because he was doing that because the energy was there. He was overloading himself. And I said, no, if you don't need to do something, don't look for something to do. You've done your job. Relax. Yeah, so those are some
mm.
of the very simple
Wow,
things
awesome.
we start working on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Um, he probably had more energy too from not drinking the coffee.
Yeah.
You get the
With time.
letdown
Yeah.
afterwards. So,
You did.
do you have any other of these sorts of victories with clients that you've been really excited about lately? That's such a good story. I love it.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So recently, and I think I posted that yesterday or 2 days ago. So there's this client I worked with. Her major challenge was digital distractions from
Mm, yes.
notifications, pings, and I think a lot of people suffer from that, right?
Hmm.
Where you get so attached to your phone that even when there is nothing beeping, you're actually hearing beeping sounds like notification pings. Like that,
Right.
that is another another level of distraction.
Or you
Um,
have a bunch of devices. You have your laptop and your watch and your
yes,
tablet, and they're all beeping and pinging and
and they're all interconnected, right? So
yeah.
constantly getting notifications. And when she joined the program, that was something she really wanted to stop. One of the things she wanted to overcome. And then we started working on those things. So what happened was, the good thing is, if you check your mobile phone, if you use iOS, there's this screen time application. If you use Android, there is digital well-being. They do
Mm,
very similar things. At least they give you feedback or a report weekly on your phone screen time.
mhm.
So
Right.
we started by declustering her mobile phone. If you don't need this application, delete it, put it on mute, take it off. You don't need it. Why are you still getting
Mm,
notifications? That's just extra distraction. So you take those ones out. The second thing is, what is the application that distracts you the most? Put a time limit to it. And this is very simple. Anyone can do this. Put a time limit to it. So when it gets to that time, it shuts down the application for the day. So most of my frequently used apps all have time limits to them, because I
mm.
don't want
Oh,
to
yeah.
use them beyond. Yeah, I don't want to go beyond. I
Mm,
know there might be a tendency to do that, and I don't want to. So once it's there, I get a
mhm,
notification. This app is shutting down in 5 minutes. Wrap up whatever you want to do, and so I just have to wrap up and shut it down, right?
mm. Yeah,
Then
that's smart.
another
Mm,
simple thing another simple thing I told her to do, and the team, like the people I work with, is, I don't know about other people, but using my computer for social media activities is very stressful compared to my mobile phone. With my mobile phone, I can easily just scroll, right? You can be anywhere using, but with your computer, you need to be in a farm, like a comfortable space. So if you also observe that you're kind of addicted to a particular application, make it a point of duty to only use the application on your computer, right?
Mm.
And it will stress you to use it. And guess what will happen? You will start, when you think about it, you think about the stress level it gives you, and your appetite for it starts going down. You can try it.
Mm. Mm. Oh, that's
It's
smart.
very
That's a good
uncomfortable.
tip. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's quite uncomfortable. So your mind starts connecting that application to discomfort. So you just
Mm.
want to get quickly as possible. You just want to get that thing done and move on. So if you spend 5 hours on that application, for example, let me not call applications, any social media platform of your choice, right? Just the one you feel you're addicted to, make it a point of duty to only use it on another device, maybe your computer, and see how unsatisfying it is. Over time, it will tend to reduce your
Mm.
affinity for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can do that same sort of thing with other things too, as far as you can make it easier for yourself to do the right
Yeah.
thing and harder for yourself to do the wrong thing. Like,
Indeed.
you know, if it's your health, just don't buy the candy at the store, don't buy the ice cream, don't buy have it any of it in your house, you know? It's like
Yeah.
if you if it's harder to get, then you probably won't get it. Like
Yeah. Or go
people
for the
are
most expensive one. And with time,
mm,
you'll be like,
yeah,
this is taking so much money out of my pocket. It makes no sense. Why am I
right.
buying this for it? Yeah. So just make the most expensive one your go-to brand. And by the time you spend a
Mm,
couple of bucks on it and you're like, nah, it's not that
mm.
important. Yeah. So make it
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good tip. That's so you can apply that in so many different
Yeah.
things. That's great.
Yeah.
So, where are you going this year with your coaching and your podcast and everything? What do you have coming up that you're excited about?
Oh, yeah. A couple of things. With the podcast, I'm trying to get some very exciting guests in as well. As a podcaster, and I'm sure you know this, as you begin to progress, there are some people you just want to have on your podcast to come say something. And because they have built authority, you just enjoy what they do. So yeah, I look forward to that. I'm
Nice.
slowing down for the rest of the year so that I can fully strategize for next year, right?
Mm,
So
okay.
like December, I think, yeah, it's just taking a break because it's been a long year, starting it off, getting it running, and then putting
Mm,
things in place to reduce I'll say the time to production. I'm also trying to work on that, get a team to do that for me so that I can fully focus on some other aspects of things. Yeah. And then with respect to my
mm,
coaching program, I'm getting more requests, and some of them, they are not my ideal clients in terms of purchasing power, but they really want to get my content. So I'm currently working
mm.
on an online course for it.
Oh, neat.
Right. Yes. So that's something I'm working on, and fingers crossed it should go live in like first week of December. That's something I truly look forward to. So
Awesome.
I'm just gathering the resources and trying to start the recording and all of that, so I can have that
Okay.
proper online course for people who, yeah, because a lot of people are now reaching out to say, hey, we heard you, because of my social media activities where I share some of the things I do. Like this concept makes sense. I would like to learn more. So I'm trying to put all of that into an online course and just make it available to people who want it.
Oh, awesome.
So
That's great.
yeah, with respect to it, I think that's it. Then I'm also excited for the next cohort, which I will be starting in
Mm.
January.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I'm beginning to, yeah, get people in for those interested. Yeah, I'm beginning to get names and just start planning it out so that
Okay.
in the new year, people come up with a lot of New Year resolutions, but they most times they just never meet it, right?
Mhm,
Because there is no
mhm,
accountability, there's no guidance. It's just sweet talk. I will do this year, but
mhm,
so for those who are excited about really doing something about their New Year resolution, so I'm just
mhm.
getting more people coming to say, "Hey, I want to change this." I'm like, "Okay, let's sign up for it so that the first week of the year we start things up and running and just get it going. So those are the things I'm excited about with respect to the coaching program and podcast.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. So,
Thank you.
what are your offerings like at the moment? You do have the one-on-one coaching, of course, and
Yep.
then you have you mentioned the group coaching.
Group coaching. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
I have a
and who do you like
one-on-one.
to work with?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead. I didn't get the question to the end.
Oh, well, I'm just kind of wondering what your clients are like and who you work with also.
Okay. Yeah, so my clients typically are, I'll say mid to senior management people, right?
Mm, okay.
They are yeah, most times, most of my clients are within that category. So they are leads, managers,
Mm,
yeah, who are doing different things, and they've gotten to the point. And the good thing is they perform well for them to be at that level. But like I said, the question is sustainability, right? For
mm,
others, they just want more control of their personal life. So they're doing so well in their career, but they realize that outside of work, it seems their lives are not like they're not fully in control. So
mm,
most times I work with mid management to senior management people, senior level people in different industries. I'm not very industry specific, though most of it comes from those in the energy industry because that's my foundation, right? Is the industry I've been in.
mhm,
So
mhm,
most people, because they already know my work, both within and outside, I've worked with some people like some years back, way back, but they've also been following what I've been doing, and they reach out to say, "Hey, can I join the program?" Yeah, but it's very much open to everyone who truly believes. One is you have more to give, there is a potential hidden there. Secondly, you really want to take control of your time, your energy, your mind, how you operate. And third, you
mm,
want to do all of this without burning out, which is very important, right? We don't want people being burnt out, right? So, for people who are
mm.
really in that space and want those kind of results, those are the people I typically work with.
Great, great,
Yeah.
awesome. And so, I know you're on LinkedIn, and where else
Yeah.
can people get a hold of you?
So I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. That's my go-to
Yep.
platform. Also on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm also there, but not as much as I am on LinkedIn. Facebook and X as well. I'm there, but not very active. But if you want to reach me, LinkedIn is the best bet. Yeah, that's where you can really get across to me.
Okay, and people could set up a consultation with you and
Yeah.
get an idea of where they stand and maybe what's possible.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. There's a free
That's
consultation.
great.
There is this quiz I also offer for free. If you go to my LinkedIn page, it's there. Yeah, and maybe
Okay.
I can share the link for the podcast. You can just take it
Okay.
to see what your
Mhm.
productivity level is like. Simple 20
Oh, neat.
questions, and you just, yeah, a rough estimate on, okay, this is where I am. And then there are free articles to some of my newsletters that handle or tackle some of those points. So if people want to just
Okay.
read up on some of the things I do and how I help my clients, then they can use that as well.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks. Was there anything else that you wanted to add today or bring up in our talk here?
Um, so I'll just say this. If you are probably struggling with reaching your full potential, I want you to know that it's not because you cannot. You are very capable. Each of us, we're unique. Each of us, we have something to offer. So I'm just saying this to whoever is listening and probably wondering, hey, I'm struggling here. You have the capacity, you have the ability. Maybe you need guidance and you need to talk to somebody, but do not doubt what you're capable of doing because it's way more powerful than any other thing. Be in the right frame of
Mm.
mind. You're capable, you have something to offer. Yeah, so that's what I want to say. And also to say big thank you for having me on Define Your Purpose. I think it's
Yeah.
remarkable. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're very welcome. Thanks for taking the time. I like to say when we walk with purpose, we collide with destiny. So
Indeed.
thanks a lot for being a guest, Wilson, and have a fantastic day.
I will. Thank you.